Minister Professor G.L. Piris, Secretary Admiral Professor Colombage, and our Vice Chancellor General Milinda Piris, ladies and gentlemen. In the blink of an eye, the terrorists killed 267 innocent people and injured over 500 on 3 hotels and 3 churches on Sri Lanka on Easter Sunday, 2019. What is so remarkable about this attack is that it symbolizes the threat the world, the region, and our nation is today facing. After having vanquished a terrorist group, a very deadly group, after having fought it for 30 years, the Tamil Tigers, today Sri Lanka faces another threat, a much more sinister threat than the threat we faced before. The insurgency and the terrorist campaign in the Northeast was confined to a region. But the new phase of threat we are facing is a nationwide threat, considering the demography of the population from which the Islamic State continues to recruit. We must never think of it as a one-off attack. Easter Sunday 2019 was not the final act of terrorism by the Islamic State in Sri Lanka. It is a persistent threat that the entire region and the world is facing, especially after the decentralization or the global expansion of the Islamic State from Iraq and Syria. I still recall March 23rd, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the terrorist leader, was hiding for 5 years. He did not appear on any video. But 1 month after, Baghuz was lost. The last territorial stronghold in Syria was lost. We saw that one of his followers, Zahran Hashim, staged a devastating attack. And then the leader of the Islamic State, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, appeared. And he said the Sri Lanka attack was in revenge for the loss of that last territorial stronghold of the Islamic State. Let me share with you, fight this new wave of terrorism. The world, the region, and Sri Lanka should reconfigure its military forces, its law enforcement authorities, and its intelligence services. As we speak today, the Sri Lankan security forces are still fighting the old war. They are having the same old mindset. And there are some new features of this threat, of this emerging and existing threat that we have to consider. Let me share 5 of those features so that you, as the Kotalawala Defense University, can give the understanding and the knowledge to our armed forces, to our law enforcement agencies, and to our intelligence services on how to fight this threat appropriately, without overreaction and without underreaction. Number 1, the base of threat, the foundation of threat is religion. Islam is a very peaceful religion. In fact, the type of Islam practiced in Sri Lanka emerged through a period of 1,400 years. where Islam coexisted with Buddhism, with Hinduism, and with Christianity. But this beautiful form of Islam was supplanted starting 1979 with the open economy, with forms of Islam that came from Pakistan and from the Gulf, where other religions were not tolerated. Not only that, even the Sufis, the majority Muslim community in Sri Lanka, they were ridiculed and vilified by this new strain of Islam that came from the Middle East and from Pakistan. So Islam changed and the Muslims changed. The Muslim looked towards the East. They wore more Arab fashion. They started to pray the way the Arabs did. They forgot their 1,400-year Muslim heritage. So the only way for Sri Lankan Muslims to protect themselves is to practice the beautiful form of Islam that was coexisting harmoniously with Buddhism, with Hinduism, and Christianity. That was a very tolerant, that was a very moderate form of Islam. But the form of Islam that came from Pakistan and the Gulf said, break the idols. And that is why in December of 2018 in Mavanella, so many Buddhist sites were attacked and the images were vandalized. So you can see very clearly the impact of foreign intervention, these new forms of Islam. So the first point is that we have to regulate the religious space. And to regulate the religious space, there must be a common Muslim identity. There must be a body on top of the All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulema, a secular body that will include a few religious leaders, but largely dominated by Muslim professionals, Muslim academics, Muslim businessmen, Muslim visionaries that will make sure that these foreign forms of Islam, what you call Islamism, does not replace the beautiful form of Islam. If you permit Arab preachers to come, if you permit clerics to come from overseas and preach, they will certainly spoil the beauty and the harmony of our nation. So anyone who comes from overseas should be scrutinized. Has he attacked another religion? Has he attacked traditional Muslims? Has he been very sensitive to the opinions of other faiths? So the first point is regulating the religious space. The second point is that Sri Lankans who study overseas, they must travel more to Asia to study, to Indonesia, to Malaysia, to Central Asia, rather than to go to the Middle East. Because they will bring these Middle Eastern ideologies, and most of the wars and the conflicts are in the Middle East. They will bring those ideas. They will begin to fight with the traditional Muslims by telling, you're not practicing real Islam. You're not practicing puritanical Islam. So the second aspect is we have to regulate to what countries they go and study, what schools they go and study. We have to scrutinize, did those schools produce terrorists? And if so, we should send them to schools that produce champions of peace, not champions that advocated differences and separations. The third is we must develop a very strong cyber presence. Our military should create a cyber directorate because the Islamic State terrorists are operating largely in cyberspace. They spend more time in cyberspace than in the physical space. And we do not have real experts operating in the online domain. I have met less than 10 officers from the Army, Navy, Air Force, our police, and our intelligence services. So I would ask KDU, especially our brilliant Vice Chancellor, to rise to this occasion and to produce specialists who can counter the threat in the online space. The fourth element I want to share with you is that we have to develop a rehabilitation program. That is, we have to promote moderation, toleration, and coexistence in the Muslim community and between the Muslim community, the Hindus, the Buddhists, and the Christians. We cannot allow groups like Bodhubala Sena, Sihala, Rave, and all these extremist groups to operate. In fact, we should plan to deregister any group that is registered as a political party in the name of a religion or in the name of ethnicity. In fact, I would say that we should not allow anyone in robes, anyone in Muslim attire to dress or Hindu attire come to parliament. It's very important that we do not create a precedent of having religion in parliament. Religious people must stay in their houses of worship and not do politics. Anyone doing politics should be immediately disrobed and should be put in after a warning, should be sent back to their house of worship. If anyone wants to do politics, that is not the place. Look at the Thai constitution, where religion is not permitted. We have to learn from the best practices. And the final aspect is this. Our political leaders, they have to integrate our communities. Katankudi, the ground zero of terrorism, had 100% Muslim population. If Muslims are not going to mix with non-Muslims, we will have exclusivists, meaning they will live their own lifestyle. They won't live as Sri Lankans, they will live as Muslims. Similar for the Tamils and the Sinhalese. So there must be a program to mix the communities. We can do this in 10 different ways, but I will mention only 3 different ways. One is urban planning and town planning. We must make sure that people are settled and resettled so that it will reflect harmony in the future. Second is the schools. We say that we have a national education policy. We don't have one because we have separate schools for Sinhalese, separate schools for Tamils, separate schools for Muslims, separate schools for Christians, separate schools for Buddhists. We must have Sri Lankan schools if we want to produce Sri Lankans. So we had many failures in the past, and that is why Easter Sunday happened. We have to raise a new generation of children who will grow up in school, in classroom, without ethnic and religious prejudice, without ethnic and religious suspicion, because it is prejudice and suspicion that lead to hatred. So fighting the Islamic State wave of terrorism is not men and women wearing black, carrying guns, breaking doors, killing or capturing people. Our armed forces will have to totally change. It is regulating the religious space, having the necessary laws, maintenance of ethnic and religious harmony acts, where if anyone insults another person's religion, should be arrested, should be investigated, should be charged, should be prosecuted. Also, I want to share with you, we do not have the cyber capabilities. Zaharan was able to meticulously plan, prepare, and execute these attacks because government of Sri Lanka, the intelligence services, law enforcement agencies, and the military forces did not build the core competencies to fight the modern wave of terrorism. Even 1 year after Easter Sunday, we have not built these capabilities. So today I am appealing to the military, law enforcement, and the intelligence chiefs and their representatives at KDU. Build these capabilities so that we will not suffer another terrorist attack from the Islamic State. Ladies and gentlemen, let me pay a tribute to those members of the armed forces, to those members of the law enforcement agencies, those members of the intelligence services, and those who have come here from the other professions, whether they are from a religious agency or religious ministry, whether they are from an education agency or education ministry, whether they are from an infocoms, communications or information ministry, that this new fight can only be fought and won only if the security forces are able and willing to work with the religious, education, and the media spheres. If we do not do this, the same way we fought a 30-year war with the Tamil Tigers, we will be fighting another 30-year war with the Muslim terrorists and the Muslim extremists. So the best strategy we have to move forward is to build the core competencies within the armed forces, within the religious education and the information spaces, and finally, to create harmony centers, provincial harmony centers, district harmony centers in towns, in villages, and also national harmony centers, and harmony clubs in schools, harmony programs where Sinhalese, Tamils, and Muslims live together as a family. If we do not live together as a family, if we go to produce separate Muslim graduates, Sinhala graduates, and Tamil graduates, we will have no united Sri Lanka. Similarly, the message to the region is this: Islamic State is spreading very rapidly in India, spreading in Pakistan, spreading in Bangladesh, in Afghanistan, and in the Maldives. This is the new phase of threat, and we all have to work together in the region by creating common databases, exchanging personnel, conducting joint training programs, joint operations, and also sharing experience, expertise, and resources. I thank you very much. I once again pay a great tribute to Vice Chancellor KDU, General Milinda Piris, for his leadership. I have always said he's the best Vice Chancellor Sri Lanka has produced, and KDU is the best university because you have no riots and no raggings. And I hope that KDU will provide the leadership to the other universities. None of the Sri Lankan universities are in the top 200 globally ranked universities, and it is paramount that in the next 1 year, KDU becomes a globally ranked university, and other national universities also follow this model. I thank you very much.